Okay, folks, the time is 12:08. So we will get started with today's public hearing. My name is Ketcher Baden. I'm on staff with the State Board of Education. For those of you who do not know me, we also have with us on staff Catherine Ruiz. They are joining us as well. And although they're not logged into Zoom, I do believe we have Alicia Williams, our executive director, watching on YouTube, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have some board members watching on YouTube as well, though we do provide them with the video link to this after the hearing is concluded so they can watch it as well. This is the time for the public hearing to provide an opportunity for individuals to express their views or concerns in a public setting on the proposed board rules regarding the Empowerment Scholarship Account Program. Now, of course, this is a virtual public hearing, so we're going to lay out the rules of the road a little bit for how this is going to work this afternoon. I'm going to be calling out the first speaker along with the next two speakers after them. And we have the list of speakers here, so you can take a look at that and see where you fall in there, but also take a look and take a peek at the other participants here. You can see we have what looks like, I think, 7 people, or maybe 6 people actually, here to speak. So it might move a little bit quicker because it looks like we don't have everybody who's joined us quite yet. So when it is your turn to speak after I call you, I will go into Zoom and unmute you. And so if you're on Zoom, there is probably a box that's going to pop up that will ask if you want to be unmuted, and you can click that box and then you can begin your comments. Now, if you're calling into the meeting, and I think we have at least one person, maybe 2, we're going to be calling in on the phone. So when we unmute you, there's going to be a voice that pops up in your ear, pops up. That'll tell you that if you want to be unmuted, and at that time you can begin your comments. Now we understand, of course, with all the virtual hearings and virtual meetings, technology, not everything works the way that we want it to, or as smoothly as we'd like it to. So after we call on you, we'll wait a few minutes to see, let you unmute yourself, get yourself in order. But if we don't hear from you after a few moments, we are going to have to move on and we'll go to the next person, but don't worry, we'll come back to you when it looks like you're squared away or at the end. Now, if there is somebody on this list who I do not see on Zoom, I'll probably just make a note of it and then move on to the next person on the list. But just like I said before, we'll put them at the bottom of the list. So if they pop up during the course of the public hearing, we can still take their public comment. So no worries there, though we won't leave the public hearing open for hours and hours until those folks show up, but we will wait until the end after everybody else has provided their comments to see if they have shown up. So each speaker is going to have no more than 3 minutes for public comment, and as a courtesy, we have this timer here that will be up here as you are providing your public comments. At the end of your time, we do ask that you conclude your remarks, and out of respect for everybody's time here, we do reserve the right to halt someone's remarks if they don't conclude them after a request from staff. That's really just for folks who are really offending going over their time. Really don't anticipate cutting anybody off, but do want to let you know that if you're really going over time, I want to be respectful of everybody else's time here and make sure they have an opportunity and that we're all playing by the same rules. As I mentioned earlier, and as you can see here, we do have 11 people signed up to speak today, so that if everybody provides about 3 minutes, it takes us somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes. We anticipate everybody who submitted their request to speak will have that opportunity to provide a public comment, but we do also have the right to limit the number of presenters if something unforeseen occurs. Again, we don't really think that's going to be an issue today, but and we do want to hear from everybody. Just something that we always have to say as part of these public hearings in case something happens. Also, as a reminder, as part of these public hearings, neither board staff nor board members respond to comments made during the public hearing. Remember, this is solely a time for you to be heard. We have those more interactive sessions with the parent forums like we did in September. We might have another one, so it's a little more interactive, but this one is just an opportunity for people to provide public comments, and we don't respond to those. But we do have a recording of this meeting, as I mentioned, and a summary that will be provided to the board at the next board meeting, which is on the 25th, this coming Monday, for them to follow up. And we'll also provide the board with information on any issues that are raised. And then finally, just a reminder, this meeting, if you didn't get the little notice, it is being live streamed right now. So just please be mindful of that and be respectful in your marks. I certainly don't want to have to cut anybody off because they're being disrespectful or profane or what have you. So with all of that kind of preamble out of the way, we will jump straight into our public comments here today with this list as we go down. So first up, we have Rebecca Cross, followed by Sarah Blank, who I believe is by phone, and then Kayla Savine. So Sarah, I see you are with us, and I did ask you to unmute. So
yes, I am. I was able to log on, so thank you.
Great. And I'm sorry, hold on real quick. I thought I might have had Rebecca Cross, but it looks like we do not. Okay, so Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Catcher. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I appreciate you providing a forum for parent feedback and also your consistent support of the ESA program. ESA families have experienced several data breaches. These breaches make our students vulnerable and could have lifelong consequences. ESA students and their families deserve to have the same protections and privacy as all Arizona students. Please consider adding FERPA protections and privacy protocols for ESA students to the rules. In the rules, under section R7-2-1508E, it states that ADE may use a risk-based approach to approving expenditures. While I certainly appreciate the need for streamlining the approval process, I am concerned what this could mean for families. The ESA program enables students to thrive and succeed in the educational program that works best for them. Parents need to know and understand the rules in order to successfully educate their student. Parents want to follow the rules. They want to empower their students to learn. If expectations are clearly communicated, then families understand the rules and can work within those boundaries. Can the SBE rules be updated to further define the risk-based process? R7-2-1507A states that an approved item list will be provided and updated. If the list is maintained, it would greatly assist families in understanding appropriate purchases. Can this item be further defined to include when and how the list will be updated and maintained? Is it possible for all ESA families to be notified via email of policy and procedural changes? Over the past few months, there has been confusion regarding the approval and use of supplemental items. R7-2-1501 section 14 defines supplemental materials in several ways, including enhancing and enriching curriculum. However, when parents submit orders for supplemental items under these terms, they are denied. Can this rule be further clarified? I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Next up, I do see Rebecca Cross did join us. So Rebecca, we can go to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can indeed. Go ahead.
All right, I thought it was at 1, so I just ran upstairs since I got a message from someone else.
Sorry about that.
I'm a little flustered here. I wanted to talk about the risk-based approvals also. I'm not even going to go off my notes at this point. I'm very concerned because of several reasons. One, they're not following any of the current protocols. We have no idea of what is knowing for sure what is approved or not approved. One person might have it approved and the next person could get the exact same thing denied, even be within the family, one student to another. The risk-based approvals only work if there is a foundation of trust. And right now there is no trust. The database is not updated or maintained. If anything, it is only getting smaller. We aren't notified when things are changed. The only communication we get is very scripted and very basic. The weekly newsletters we get are basically just giving us a little soundbite from the handbook with no explanation. The town halls were based off of misquoting the supplementation rule. In the letter I submitted for today, I said that the supplementation rule really needs to be revised to put the new part that SB enacted last year right in the same line as the other one. So they can't just cut it off like that and keep misquoting it. Parents are overwhelmingly working from a place of good faith. We want to educate our children. We want to give them these opportunities. But it is so nerve-wracking, especially with now knowing that nothing that I've bought since July has been looked at all. At least with the expense reports being approved at the end of the quarter, I knew at the end of the quarter, I still possibly had a chance to return something or to get an updated invoice. If it's going to be several years before things are looked at again, I mean, good luck getting a corrected invoice or finding that tutor to ask them to modify this one little detail that they might want switched on the receipt or the invoice. And also the concern with that is if I'm buying in good faith and I believe something is approved based on, you know, even what has been approved previously, and now they have denied it, it may have been a repeated purchase or repeated expense every month for how many years. And now I have this massive amount of money that I need to pay back. I know they can only go back 2 years, but it's quite unbelievable the amounts of money that could accumulate in that 2 years that was spent in good faith and in line with statute, but possibly not in line with whatever random guideline the ESA staff is looking at that day. We have been told that they are looking at those invoices, but I have been asking Terry and others at ESA since July, how will we know? Right now it says either approved or completed, depending on where you look in Class Wallet, but it looks that way as soon as the expense hits the card, it switches to approved on one side of Class Wallet portal, and it switches to completed in another portion as soon as you submit your invoice. So we have no way of knowing what is actually approved. If I weren't in the Facebook group and I were a new parent and I was just like, oh, this says approved, obviously my expense was approved, this was approved, I will go ahead and buy that for another child. And so this risk-based auditing is just not in the parents or the students' favor. So I ask that that be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next up, we have, oh, and I'm sorry, Rebecca, you had mentioned you had alluded to a letter that you had submitted today.
Yes.
Did you submit that to the ESA inbox? And Catherine, I'm just checking with our staff, Kat, to make sure that we got
Yeah,
that.
I submitted it a couple weeks ago. I have it pulled up here. It was for this meeting. It says comments for, maybe it was for the September meeting. I think I put the wrong date on it. But anyway, it was submitted on September 24th.
Okay.
I know I sent another one in October, though. Basically saying the same thing each month.
Okay, we will, we'll make a note of that and go back to make sure that we got those. I just wanted to check. Thank you, Rebecca.
Perfect, thank you.
Next up, we have Kayla Savadine, followed by Dr. Kathy Bolts, and then Patricia Stevens. So Kayla, you are up. Kayla, if you can hear me, we're through Zoom asking you to unmute, and you can provide your public comment now.
Catcher.
Sorry, Dr. Bolts, I think I muted you as I wanted to mute Rebecca. I'm sorry.
I was just saying that Kayla typed in the chat.
Oh, I see. Having difficulty, I'm clicking on mute, but it's not working. Huh. Well, that's, sorry, everyone probably heard our doorbell here at the office ring just then. Kayla, you might have to, maybe we try the old log out and log back on. I am trying to work it here, but yeah, Kayla, why don't you give a log out and log back on, and we'll see how that works. In the meantime, we can go over to Dr. Bolts and followed by Patricia Stevens, and then Kayla will hit you up before we do. Kat, did you have something? I'm sorry.
Kayla did acknowledge that she was logging out and logging back on, so she should be back in now. I just admitted her, and I also wanted to confirm that I did have the email from Rebecca Cross that was sent previously.
Thank you.
But Kayla should be in now if you can prompt her to unmute.
Okay. Hey, it worked now.
There you go. All right, Dr. Bolts, I'm sorry. We'll get back to you next. We'll go to Kayla here, and then we'll go to Dr. Bolts, followed by Patricia Stevens. Sorry about that, Kayla. Go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. Technology is fantastic, right? um, Hi. My name is Kayla Spadine. I'm an ESA mom. And I had brought comments before to a board meeting about the appeals process. Now that it's being moved from the Office of Administrative Hearings to having basically a hearing officer adjudicate between the department and parents. My concern is that even though very, very, very few appeals have actually made it all the way to the decision maker, which I think in itself shows that there's an issue at the department with their approval and denial processes. In those instances where it does go before a judge or in the future before a hearing officer, parents are at a very large disadvantage because they are speaking basically against attorneys from the Attorney General's office that are representing the department. And, while we have the ability to hire representation if we would like, one, that is an extremely inequitable option for most, and it puts an undue burden on parents to pay out of pocket because obviously legal fees are not going to be approved ESA expenses. And if I'm there to discuss an ESA purchase, especially if it is ruled in my favor that the appeal be over, that my appeal be upheld and the decision by the department be overturned, those are also fees that I'm not going to be able to recoup. I, as the executive director of Empowered Arizona Families, and there are other third-party organizations that help parents in making, in communicating with the department, in getting things answered, helping them with the basic processes and everything. We would like to be able to come and help parents in this process as well. When parents are like, hey, how do I go about appealing this decision? And I don't know how to form, my arguments, and I don't know about speaking in front of these people about these claims. Parents should be able to select third-party advocate organizations to be able to come alongside them in the appeals process to help them with those things. It's not a court of law. We are not suing the department. I do believe that it would not be an inappropriate thing for third-party parent advocates to be able to come alongside parents and help in those cases so that parents aren't seated with extra costs and just making this, if I'm appealing a $35 fee that I've made that I believe should be approved, I shouldn't be having to pay thousands of dollars out of pocket or go up against attorneys from the Attorney General's office in order to argue about it either. I should have the help I need if I need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Next up, we have Dr. Boltz, followed by Patricia Stevens and Kelly Brizuela. Dr. Boltz.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Great. Okay. As some of the other parents have commented, I also implore the state board to add rules to address the privacy concerns of ESA families. The ESA program has been plagued by breach after breach after breach after breach. Not all of them have been publicized. The first really notable one was in January 2020, when names, addresses, phone numbers, disability eligibility categories, ESA account balances, all of this information was shared with reporters and with political activist organizations. Some families were harassed at their homes as a result of this. More recently, in the class wallet system, there have been several breaches. Addresses, names, phone numbers have been shared of every person who connected an Amazon account to class wallet. There have been breaches in the application part of the ESA program, so that when someone goes to fill in the application, it's already filled in with someone else's information. There have been other breaches. There have just been repeated breaches. So we ask that FERPA privacy be taken seriously, that the protections that go to other Arizona students, which were in the new law that these hearings are addressing, would also be extended to ESA students who are not excluded. I also have serious concerns about the risk-based audits. It puts all the risk on the parents. It is not clear what is approved. We have seen parents with twins have the same item approved for one and disapproved for the other by the exact same ESA employee. The inconsistency is mind-boggling, and the financial risk to ESA families is unacceptable, particularly for families with students with disabilities who have high levels of funding, who can have as much as about $43,000 a year. So that's almost $4,000 a month that is at financial risk. And as was explained, it might be years before some of these expenses are reviewed. And also, there needs to be a way to spend the funds using the card for all allowed expenses. Right now, I'm going round and round with ADE about online classes, which are explicitly allowed by statute, but there is no way to pay for them. And I could see someone with a high level of funding who cannot access what their student needs in the class wallet system, and the card might be blocked. So ADE is asking this family to get reimbursed for nearly $4,000 a month. Most families cannot float that kind of expense. There needs to be a way to access the funds using the card. And as was mentioned previously, the definition of supplemental needs to be followed by the Department of Education. Something that enhances the curriculum doesn't necessarily have to be stated in the curriculum. For example, if I'm teaching biology and we decide to do a chapter on vision, it might not name specific projects, but we might decide to dissect cow eyeballs, for example. And something like that is very relevant and would be an effective hands-on learning project needs to be allowed. And so the rules need to be written in a way that is supporting education instead of constantly accusing parents of fraud, as the Department of Education seems to be focused on. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Boltz. Next up, we have Patricia Stevens, followed by Kelly Brizuela, and then Amanda Adams. Patricia?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can indeed. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I would like to see something written into the rules for ESA regarding communication. There is a severe deficit in information getting to all of the families on the program. Holding a town hall is not sufficient for spreading information, updates to the program, anything in general. Most parents do not have the ability to attend a 30-minute meeting in the middle of dinner time. That is very ableist, A, assuming they have access to the internet, B, assuming they have the ability to stop what they're doing. They may be working. There's just so many problems with that. They may be in a rural area that doesn't have good internet service. We need to be able to communicate changes to the program, rules to the program, updates to the program in a concise format. There is no reason why Facebook is utilized as the main source of communication right now for families. Emails need to go out. They need to go out to all people on the program. Every parent should get an updated bulletin email that doesn't just have highlights and say, hey, attend the town hall. We need to know what's discussed at the town hall. When the town hall is occurred, there should be a written format. Now, also for people who don't speak English, people who are ADA and need to have either it done in Braille or need to have it done in a format that they can read. The other issue I have is that when we do communicate with ESA, there need to be rules in place for how long they have to communicate back to us. If somebody has a help desk that they send in, right now there's guidelines in the handbook that we should hear within 3 to 5 days. Some parents hear in 2 days, other parents may be waiting 53 days and longer. We need some rules in place about how communications are delivered to families and how long it can happen. For instance, on the SNAP program, if somebody applies for SNAP, there are guidelines that that person has to hear something within 10 days of that application, period. Whether it's even just an email to that family or a letter to that, it's actually a letter to that family that says, hey, we received your application. We're still working on some information. We need to get some guidelines in there to not only assist families, but also assist ESA. If there's a structured way that they know, hey, these accounts need to be hit at this time, nobody's falling through the cracks because you have in place a system that says this, that sets the alert onto that account that says, this person set a help desk exactly 4 days ago. It's time to check on it. We just need more accountability, and we definitely need guidelines and rules in how communication is processed, how it is sent out, and the guidelines on how long it takes. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Next up, we have Kelly Brizuela, who I thought I saw her earlier in the meeting. It might be a he, actually. I apologize, or a they, but I thought I saw them in the meeting earlier. But so we'll keep moving because I don't see them. So then we have Amanda Adams, followed by Kathy Visser. And I don't see either of them in the meeting. So keep going down the list with Coco Lovejoy. I don't see her in the meeting either. Then we'll go to Tamara Kumpfmiller, who I think, Tamara, you are the phone number here. So I'm going to ask you to unmute, assuming that that's you.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
Tamara, we can hear you, and it is your time to provide a comment, so go ahead.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. So I, along with several other of our friends, and sorry because I'm on the phone, you might have to cut my time, which is okay. I'm trying to set a timer on my watch, and it's going to be tight here. Along with several of the other ladies who've already mentioned the risk-based approach, which, just for reference, that's R7 2-1508 section E, and it just says that the department may review less frequently based on risk-based approach, which we asked about, several of us asked about what that entailed during the last Parent Advisory Council meeting. And the way that it came across, and I could have been misunderstanding, is that basically everything will eventually just be approved. And then they will go back and re-audit things, which, as somebody who has a child with higher funding and a child who is on base funding, that can look very different between the things that we purchase them. I am very careful about what we purchase. I make sure that I really only ever put things through ClassWallet so that I do get the approvals that I need to know that I'm okay, or it gets rejected right away so that I don't have to worry about it. Or I might use the debit card, but only after I submit a help desk ticket and make sure that I have my own approvals for everything that I'm purchasing. So I am also imploring the board, the department, to please flesh out these rules. You know, this communication has kind of been a speed bump this year, and we just need guidance. We need to know that when we're looking for something, when we're looking for an answer, that we can get it, and that we can get it in a timely manner. Because for my family to have to repay something that could be in the thousands of dollars is absolutely impossible, and it would cripple our family. And so I just need to implore again that with these rules, that they be really just fleshed out so that we understand exactly what we can do, what we can't do, and how to get the answers that we need in a timely manner so that we can continue to empower our children and their education. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. You had an additional 30 seconds, so you did just fine on your time there. After Tamara is Allison Wilkes. I also do not see her there. So that means we have Kelly Brizuela, Amanda Adams, Kathy Visser, Coco Lovejoy, and Allison Wilkes, who are not present. And we have ran through everybody else who provided a public comment. So I think what we're going to do is we're probably going to wrap it up here. I'm going to ask Catherine Ruiz on our staff to reach out to those folks and remind them that although they were unable to provide a verbal comment at our public hearing today for whatever reason, they certainly can provide a written comment, and we'll make sure that we provide that to the board. And if but for the October 25th board meeting, and also just as a reminder for everybody, the deadline for providing public comments for the October 25th board meeting is this Friday at noon, and that's both written comments and registrations to provide a virtual or in-person public comment. But as I had mentioned at the introduction, all of these comments will be provided to the board by the end of this week with the agenda item, which is the update on the ESA rulemaking process. There, I don't believe are any actual recommended changes to that rule, but it is an update and part of the rulemaking process, which could have the rule adopted as early as the December 13th meeting. So with that, and as I do one last check to see if anybody else popped up, and it doesn't look like they did, we we'll probably conclude this meeting. I want to thank everyone for being here today. And I understand noon on a weekday can be tough for folks to provide public comment. So hope everyone knows that Catherine and I certainly appreciate folks taking time out of their day to provide public comment. And I know the board does as well. So if you have any questions or additional comments or concerns, feel free to reach out to us, especially Catherine. I know she's been doing a great job communicating with you all, and we will talk to you all later and conclude the hearing now. So thank you all and have a good rest of your day and rest of your week.